Welcome, everyone. My name is Erica Garnett. I am the manager of Alumni Volunteer Programs with the Alumni Association. We're so excited that you're able to join us for today's hashtag Teach Kids Money, hosted by UMD alum Matt Gardner. And just a note that this webinar will be recorded, so we will be uploading this to our YouTube channel, and also we'll share out the link following the session today. So the webinar is part of the Alumni Association's Personal Development webinar series, in which we hope to provide thought-provoking and valuable content that will help alumni just like you. We hope that this series will help you to achieve your personal and professional goals, and we ask that you keep a close eye on your UMD Alumni Association event calendar as we look to provide relevant content throughout the year. All right, so we have a lot of information to cover today, and we want you to get the most out of this webinar. Mac has somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes of content to share with you, and we will reserve time at the end to answer your questions. Some of you have submitted questions in advance, but if you'd like to submit a question for Mac to answer, please share that via the chat at the bottom of your screen. And now about our presenter. I'm excited to introduce UMD alum Mac Gardner. Mac is a certified financial planner, practitioner, and has served in the financial services industry for more than 20 years. His passion for financial literacy led him to publish his first book, Motivate Your Money, in 2013. As his family grew and his clients began to ask him for ways to teach their kids about managing money, he decided to use elements from his first book to develop a financial literacy platform for young children. The 4 money bears represent the 4 basic functions of money. When children gain exposure to money management skills at an early age, they are likely to develop healthy financial planning habits as adults. Mac is a true believer in the power of stories. He wants every child to know the story of the 4 money bears and the benefits of sound money management for generations to come. I'll pass it along to Mac to get things started.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you all who are joining for spending a bit of your time with us today. I'll start this off by saying go Terps. Very, very happy, and I was honored when the Alumni Association reached out and asked for me to share some of the experiences I've had when it comes to financial literacy and it comes to helping kids and people as a whole just have better discussions about money and have a better relationship with their money. So as was mentioned before, the 4 Money Bears is the book that I wrote for kids, all right? My first book, however, is called Motivate Your Money. You may be able to see that there. And I wrote that book when I started my advisory practice years ago in Houston, because in working with folks, I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have presented thousands of financial plans to people at various stages of their life. It was still just alarming to me how a lot of folks didn't have an understanding and weren't really exposed to a lot of some basic financial literacy concepts, the difference between term insurance and perm insurance, compound interest, IRAs, tax deductible versus non-tax deductible. So I wrote that first book to really help my clients and help people understand some of the basic tools that are needed to start a financial plan. And then about a year into my practice, one of my clients came to me and said, "Hey, Mac, I'm on the board of an organization by the name of Jack and Jill, and it's a non-for-profit organization that works with kids of color." And she said, "Would you be open to creating some sort of financial literacy or some sort of book for kids, for young kids?" I said, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." So that's when I took some of the elements from my first book and I asked her, I said, "How young of kids are we talking about?" And she said, "Elementary school." I said, "Oh, this is going to be fun." What was interesting is that we both had young children at that time. And so what I did was I took the elements of my first book and the fact that there's only 4 things you can do with money: spend it, save it, invest it, or give it away. And I created this concept called the 4 Money Bears. And if you read the book, you'll notice the story is really a story about a family, a bear family, And it's actually the story of how I taught my children about money and how to manage money. And so I made two of the boys, two of the Bears boys, I made two of the Bears girls, intentionally made them all different colors because I wanted everyone and every child to be able to see themselves in this book. They even are different shapes and different sizes of all sorts. So the For Money Bears book was written 5 years ago, and it started off just as a project to help my clients with young kids. And then it started getting some attention from different organizations, the different companies within the financial advisory industry. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that schools really aren't teaching this stuff. And it also opened my eyes to the fact that children start connecting with money a lot earlier than people thought. In fact, an Oxford study shows that children start connecting with money by age 7, and only 20 or 21 states have any sort of financial literacy courses required by high school. So if you have children being connected with money and learning about money and the concept of money at age 7, and if you happen to live in a state that has financial literacy courses by high school, that's 10 years for them to either get some information, no information, or misinformation about how to manage money. So the For Money Bears book is something that I'm very glad I was able to put together. And I'm very glad that a lot of different states and a lot of different organizations have been supportive of the mission of the Children's Financial Literacy Mission. So one of those organizations that has been partnering with us to really promote children's financial literacy is a company by the name of eMoney. eMoney is one of the leaders in financial planning technology. A lot of financial advisors out there utilize their financial planning software to work with clients. And about 2 years ago, they reached out to me and asked if I could participate in their annual meeting and to meet with some of their leaders to see how we could get the conversation started at an earlier age through our For Money Bears book. So a year ago, they asked if they could create a continuing education course, a CFP course, that will help advisors who have clients with young kids start that process. And what they loved about the book is that it's a fun and entertaining way for parents with young kids to start the conversation. If you've never got, as a parent, if you never got any sort of financial literacy guidance or education as a parent, it's hard for you to start that conversation with your child. So the For Money Bears book is a really, really neat tool to start that conversation. In fact, Eric, I think the presentation that we have a few slides I'd like to share with everyone here to really kick off the discussion and find out some new ways as how we can help kids and start that conversation about money. Got a couple poll questions here. Are the poll questions ready for us? All right. So I am a big fan of public speaking and just sharing ideas with folks. And there are 3 E's of public speaking. You got to engage, right? You got to entertain, and you got to educate. So as I was, doing elementary school tours and book readings, I said, what would be a good way to educate a room full of elementary school kids? So I keep a $100 bill in my wallet. I took the $100 bill out and I opened it up and I said, or I asked, if I gave you this $100 bill, what would you do? And if you saw the responses, hands started flying up in the air. I'd buy Pokemon cards, or I'd buy candy, or I'd buy shoes, or buy this, that, and the third. And at first, it was funny. It was humorous, but I would see an amazing trend. And I've done numerous speaking engagements, and I do this $100 bill challenge, and it actually became an experiment. And what the experiment really showed me is that children are conditioned to consume from a very early age. 9 out of 10 kids, when asked what they would do with that $100 bill, would spend it. You'd have one kid that would raise her hand and say, I'd put in my piggy bank, and I'd say, okay, you're lying. thank you for being different. You probably wouldn't do that with a $100 bill, but So children are familiar with the ability to consume and then the ability to save, put money in the piggy bank. But that's only two of the four things, right? So what we're able to do with the book is to really showcase to children at a very early age that there are really four things, and the two other things are very important. So um, uh, polling question number 2, I like that one. This is an interesting thing, and we can open it up to folks who would like to respond. But how much did financial illiteracy cost Americans in 2018? And if you want to throw a number out there, that's good. I'll give about 10 seconds for folks to just kind of think about it, mull it over. Eric, I'm not sure if we have any folks that are putting anything into the chat, but so I'll disclose. Okay, I've seen one. I've seen 10 million. It's actually $307 billion is the cost of financial illiteracy in the U.S., and that's due to lack of education about how loans work and interest rates and where to place money. So it's a big number. And the last one on there is where does the U.S. rank in terms of percentage of financial illiterate adults? Globally, the United States, who is the largest and the most powerful economy, we currently rank 14th in the world when it comes to financial literacy score. So we could definitely do better. I think we owe it to our young children to show them ways and show them tools to be able to manage their money and start healthy financial habits early, so that when they become adults, they'll have a track record of some success. So here's we can go to the next slide, please. So here's really what we're trying to do with the Four Money Bears book. We're trying to show kids, right, that there are four functions of money, right, and that there's a pro and a con to each function of money. So the first one we start off with is Spender Bear. So Spender Bear spends every dollar he earns, right? He doesn't save, he doesn't invest, or he gives. So on one page, we look at the pros to spending, and those pros are, you have nice things, you're feeling of accomplishment, you look good for others. So we're not trying to say that spending money is a bad thing, but what we're trying to show and illustrate to kids is that if you spend everything, the cons to spend all of it is that you have nothing, no savings, there's nothing for emergencies, you can't invest, and you can't give. All right. So that's really, if we had the book and you were sitting down, everyone had the book in front of them, you'd see that one page has the pro and the other page has the con. All right. And if you go to the next bear, our next bear is Saver Bear. So here, what we're trying to show and illustrate to children is that there are pros to saving money. You always have cash when you need it. It's a good habit to start off with at a very early age, and it's a safe way to grow money. So those are some of the pros. Some of the cons is if you just hoard cash and just keep money everywhere, you can't really, you're not really buying anything, you're not doing anything with it. But there's also no money to invest, and you are not giving your money either. So again, the two sides to every function of money. It's good to do that, but there's also cons to doing too much of it. All right, next beer. Investor Bear. Now, this is interesting. A lot of folks have reacted to the book in a way that I found has to be just really, really good and really unexpected. Is there's a difference between saving and investing. And a lot of times parents are looking for a way to illustrate to a child what the difference is and the tools that you can use to illustrate that. So with regard to Investor Bear, here we talk about the pros to investing. So it's a great way to increase wealth over time. Ways to invest are owning a business, owning real estate, and it allows for generational wealth. It allows for you to grow your money over generations. But there's something that's different between investing and saving. It's a word called risk. And what that means is that money that Investor Bear uses, yes, you could make a lot, but you could also potentially lose a lot of money, right? And then once you've lost that money, if you invest everything, you'd have nothing for a rainy day, and you don't have the ability to give, and you really don't have nice things that you have for yourself. So the other, the con to investing is that it takes time. Investing is not something that you do for a couple months. It's something that you do for years in order to really get the benefit of it, versus saving. When we go to the last bear, our last bear is Giver Bear. Everyone loves Giver Bear. If you see the book, inside the book, she's throwing money, she's giving. Everyone loves Giver Bear. Everyone's picking up the money that she's giving away, she's throwing out. But the pro to that is that you're taking care of people, you're helping the community, you're helping your church, your charities, your schools. So giving is important. But what are the cons to that? The cons is, if you give all of your money away, you don't have anything for yourself. Sadly, people will take advantage of you. Could potentially take advantage of you if they know that you're just a giving person and you'll give everything away. And of course, if you give everything away, you can't save, you can't invest, and you can't buy things for yourself. So what we're really trying to do through this For Money Bears book and through this process is sit down with a child. And again, the target demographic for this book is elementary school children. So it's children between the ages of 5 and 11, right? To just sit down and give them some basic blocks of what money can do, both good and both bad. All right, and go to the next. And then last, the story talks about the need for all 4 of the bears to work together. And when they work together, they create something called a budget. And the 4 rules that were in my first book and are in this book is spend cautiously, save diligently, invest wisely, and give generously. And if a child can learn to do all 4 of those things with money, or be aware that that's what money allows them to do, then they have more of an understanding of their options, right? It's not just, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy a bunch of candy or buy a bunch of stuff, or just put some stuff in my piggy bank. It's, okay, what's this concept of investing? What does that mean? And what are some of the tools that we can use to help a child reach those goals? So budgeting is important. All right, what's the next slide we have here? All right, investing versus saving at the child level. This is a very popular question. This is an analogy or story that I like to use that folks says has helped them a lot when it comes to explaining to their child what's the difference between saving and investing. So same $100 bill, we have it in our hand again. If we take that $100 bill and we go to a bank, 6 months from now, we're going to have $100 and a couple cents for interest, right? A year from now, we'll have $100 and maybe a couple more cents. That's saving. So with saving, we're putting our money somewhere so that we can get access to exactly what we put into that bank at some point in time in the future, right? With investing, if we take that $100 bill and we invest that $100 bill into a company, into buildings, into precious metals, what have you, there's a potential 6 months from now that $100 could be $200. But there's also the possibility that that $100 could be $50, right? And so that's really the difference between investing and saving, is that the component of risk, right? You could make more money, but you could also lose more money. And I came across a very interesting statistic that said that there is a 90% probability of losing or gaining 10% when you invest for 1 year, right? So there's a very high probability. Over a 10-year period, though, there's a 90% rate, right, or success of gaining at least 10% on your money. Right? So these are some of the things that we're trying to really just boil down to a very, very easy idea or concept for a child to understand. And some of the things I share with children too is, when I ask them, okay, what's your favorite shoe, or what's your favorite toy, and they'll say, oh, well, Under Armour. Shout out to Kevin Plank and the crew at Under Armour. Go Terps. They say Under Armour. Okay, well, I'll let them know. Did you know that you can actually buy shares of Under Armour? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, you can actually own a piece of that company, and you buy something called a stock. And they're like, oh, okay, they didn't know that. And so that's what investing is. And a neat little, play on words. I'll tell kids, um, a stock, you own a company, right? A bond, you loan. So a stock is when you're owning a share of that company and you're entitled to get dividends and growth as that company grows. A bond is a loan when you're loaning a company money and they're paying you interest to borrow that money. So again, overarching story here is savings and investing are two different things, right? It's important that children understand the difference, and it's important that they understand the benefits of both of them. One is a short-term benefit, emergency funds, making sure cash is there should you need it. The other one is a long-term benefit and the ability to grow money over time and grow your wealth. What do you have? Go to the next slide, please. Okay. Oh, here's another good one. We are, can't even say moving towards, we're pretty much, almost in a cashless society where folks are using debit cards and using fintech to purchase things like Venmo, so on and so forth. And so a question that often comes up is, what's the difference between credit and debit? And what I will tell young kids is, okay, with a debit card, that's your money. Okay. So if you go to a store and you use your debit card, that's attached to your bank account. So you better make sure there's money in that bank account to be able to cover whatever it is that you're buying at that time. With a credit card, you're using someone else's money. All right. And so if you're using someone else's money to buy things, all right, they're going to charge you a fee, or they're going to charge you to use their money, just as if a child lent some money to someone else. It's like, hey, I want my money back, but I'd also like some interest to be able to do that. So again, debit is using your money, making sure there's money in your account, right? Credit is using a bank's money or someone else's money, and they charge you a lot of money to use their money too. So the rule of 72, this is a good one. As an advisor, I can't tell you how many times folks will sit down and say, okay, Mac, I'm going to give you this $100,000 to invest for me, turn it into 200,000. And I say, that's not how that works really when it comes to investing. And so I use the rule of 72 as a rule to give folks a better understanding of really what kind of rate of return you will need in order for your money to double. And this is important for kids to understand. It's division, really. So let's just say we could get a 10% rate of return on our money, right? Consistently every year. What you do is you divide 72 by 10, right? And that's how long it will take for your 100,000 to double to 200,000. All right? So not bad, 10% rate of return in 7.2 years, your money will double. Now, when I'm illustrating to young people and just pretty much people as a whole, why a savings account may not be the best tool for a long-term goal like retirement or buying a home, something along those lines, is because if we take that 1% rule, right, and we utilize the rule of 72, it'll show you that, guess what? 72 divided by 1 is 72. So if you have $100,000 and you have it saved up for retirement and you're only getting 1%, good luck finding that out in this interest rate environment, it's going to take you 72 years for your money to double. And when inflation is going at, 3, 4, 5%, 6% if you're looking at colleges, universities, 7, 8% when you're looking at healthcare costs, a savings account earning 1% is not going to get you the growth that you need to keep up with inflation and reach your goal. So the rule of 72 is a really neat tool to let people know, young and old, an expectation as to the rate of return you need in order for your money to double. A compounded interest, I think Albert Einstein said that's one of the eighth wonder of the world, is the fact that your money can grow over time, and compound interest will allow you, if you start the process early, your money can work harder for you than you can ever work for your money. It's a little Mac nugget I like to share with folks, is that if you allow your money and you place it into places that allow you for tax-free growth or tax-deferred growth, your money through compounding interest over time can grow at a much larger rate. So explaining that is to a child is important when it comes to putting money into savings accounts or even investing money down the road. And then the 50-30-20 budget is simply, utilize 50% of your income for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% of it for savings. And then you can even split that 20% up there and put, 10% into some sort of savings account, and then maybe, the other 10% into a brokerage or an IRA or some sort of long-term savings account. But again, just some concepts that can help in that conversation with a young person or with an older person about rules of thumb when it comes to money and investing and financial planning. All right, what do we have next here? Anything there? All right, tools and ideas to utilize with clients and children. We wanted to not just have a fun story in the For Money Bears book. We also wanted to have worksheets. We wanted to have tools in the book wherein a parent can sit down with a child and say, hey, okay, spending cautiously, how do we do it? What are some tools you can use? And in the book, you'll see, I'll try to flip it over here, but towards the end of the book, you'll see these little worksheets and that are in here, and that's what's on the sheet there. But a wallet, piggy banks, a stock, a bond. Interestingly enough, the tools for spending and saving, a lot of folks know, a bank, a piggy bank, but the investing page has gotten a lot of interesting reviews because, real estate is an investment. Precious metals, gold, silver, that's an investment. Anything that has the potential to grow over time, but also has the other side of which is the opportunity to lose money over time, is an investment. So there's stocks, as we talked about, stocks you own, bonds alone. There's real estate as well as precious metals. And then when we get to the give generously, we talk about churches, we talk about not-for-profit organizations, we talk about family and why it's important to give to those who are in need, because no matter what situation that we are in financially, there's always someone that can use the help and benefit from the goodness and altruism that's in all of us. So these are some of the tools that are and the ideas that are in the book to help parents with young kids really have that discussion and have some good ideas about what to do with their money. All right, couple things. So if you want to buy the book, it's available like pretty much everything on Amazon. You can go there and buy the book there. It's $12.95. We've been fortunate and got a lot of great reviews. You can see some of the reviews from not just parents, but some financial advisors and folks that are in the industry that have been very kind and very gracious to put a few words and share their thoughts on the book and how it's helped. One of the some feedback that we get frequently with regard to the book is there an app? I can't tell you how many times I've had parents say, hey, Mac, love the book. It's great. You can color in it. You can do it. There's a little budget at the back. I forgot to show folks this, but it's not in the presentation, but I actually put a budget in the back of every book where you can sit down with your child and say, okay, this month this is how much I'm going to spend, save, invest, or give. But we are moving into a digital age. And so I went to the folks at eMoney. I'm also on the board of the University of South Florida's Personal Financial Planning degree program. I went to the leadership there, and there's an organization here in Tampa called Synapse that does these what they call Synapse challenges. And the idea is to reach out to university students, to reach out to developers, and provide a sort of crowdsourcing contest. And so that's what we did. So in April of this year, we started the what we call the FinTech Bullpen, and we reached out to universities across the country, and we started an app contest. And to this day, we have almost 40 applicants into this contest. It's really been fascinating to see the involvement that we're getting, because when we launched it, we were really just looking at having University of South Florida participants and students participate. But then there are tons of personal financial planning degree programs across the country. And then international students got involved, students from Spain, from England, from Canada. And what that shows us is that financial literacy is not just a US problem. It's a global concern, a global issue. And there are lots of folks that are looking for neat tools that can bridge financial literacy and financial technology to what I affectionately call FinLit tech, to be able to develop some really, really cool resources to help kids understand money and start the financial literacy process very early. So the contest ends September 1st, and the top 5 entrants will be presenting their submissions at the eMoney conference in October, and the grand prize will be $3,000 to the entry that the judges and the participants in the conference deem to be the winner. So we're trying to build and provide teachers, parents, and financial institutions a neat, fun tool that kids can use to really start their financial literacy process early. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're working on, and hopefully everyone here who's hearing my voice and seeing this presentation will see that we're really working hard to bring a much needed resource to kids across the country and hopefully across the world.
Great. That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Mac. I think I've seen some chats come through where people are just really excited about this information. Looks like a couple people have already purchased the book, and
thank you.
So yeah, I think this is just really great information. It's nice to see it boiled down into like the smallest parts, and even for me, like easy to understand. So appreciate that. Looks like we have about 25-ish minutes for questions. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna just ask a few of the questions that have already come through the registration, and then we'll try to get to some of the questions that have come through the chat. So why don't we start off with our first question? And you sort of hint to this about elementary age kids, but at what age do you think it's appropriate to begin teaching children about these financial concepts that you've mentioned?
So different studies have shown different ages. I've seen studies that show that a child understands the concept of money by age 3. And at that point in time, maybe a little hard to discern the 4 functions of it, but understands what money is and can be used to buy things and so on and so forth. Age 7 typically, though, is where a lot of the research shows that a child is really understanding. And interestingly enough, I did an article for CNBC recently, and the question was, what's the first financial habit a child typically picks up? And it's spending. And if you think about it, children observe, they're little sponges. And so they watch how mom and dad use money. They watch spending habits. They pick up on conversations. And one of the things that we're really, really trying to do with this book is to change the conversations that are being had about money, right? So my kids or children of financial advisors or CPAs or people that deal with money on a regular basis, they're going to be fortunate because they're going to hear stories about what to do with money. They're going to hear budgeting. They're going to hear cash and stocks and so on and so forth. And that dialogue will be in their awareness. 9 out of 10 kids won't ever get this story, much less kids who come from disadvantaged areas. So that's really what we're trying to do with this book, is to really just give, because all we are, in my personal opinion, we're just a collection of stories. At the end of our days, we're just a collection of stories that we hear and share. So if we can get this book into as many kids' hands as possible, so that they know now or have an awareness of what these options are and to hear the story of the 4 money bears, at an early age. But that's why 7, I think, is a good age to just have the conversation start with. And they can read pretty well at age 7, so that helps.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know oftentimes financial literacy is taught either at home or through peers or through, friends. So having some strategies to figure out how to share that financial literacy with kids is just a really great thing to have. So appreciate you creating this book. Kind of in the same sort of category, do you think that children should have an allowance? Is that a good starting place for children to start learning about financial literacy? And if so, what sort of system do you suggest setting up in terms of an allowance?
Yeah. So, it depends. Every child is different. Every household is different. There are folks on one side of the coin that say that allowance really shouldn't be provided for household chores because a child needs to know that there's certain things that you just got to do and people aren't going to pay you to do it. And then there are folks at the other side that find that by utilizing some sort of financial incentive for their child to do things, that can be a good resource too. Personally, within our household, we pay an allowance to our kids for certain expectations of things that need to be done, and then going over and above those expectations will allow a higher amount of payout type of just to be able to illustrate that. Look, you know what? Yeah, like in real life, if you just do the basics, you will only get the basics. However, if you go over and above, we want to be able to illustrate and show them that there's benefit to doing more, and that could be financially, that could be lots of different things. So for parents who don't necessarily want to give cash, what we've done is we've created something called Bear Bucks. So if you go to www.theformoneybears.com, you will actually see Bear Bucks that we created in different denominations, all right? And a parent can print those out, cut them up, and use that as a means of, incentivizing or having a child if they do certain things, and then give them the Bear Bucks, and then the Bear Bucks can turn into some sort of cash at the other side. So, again, it really all depends. I think the most important thing is really just illustrating to a child that there's something attached to money. One side of it is what to do with it once you have it. The other side of it is how do you earn it, and why earning it is so important, and the fact that there are things that need to be done once you reach that stage in life that shows you that there's a connectivity with work and earning power.
Well, and we had a question come in that someone asked, how do you teach children to save when you don't have much money to begin with? Do you think that there are any creative ways to use maybe those Bear Bucks to teach children about saving, or using other creative methods for teaching children about saving when maybe you don't have much money to spare?
Yeah, there's a neat book out there called The Richest Man in Babylon. I would suggest it to folks who are just interested in just understanding about different ways to deal with money. But in the book, the author mentions to save 10 cents of every dollar you've ever earned. And it's the concept of paying yourself first. So there's a common misconception in the financial planning business that you have to have a lot of money in order to need a financial plan, do a financial plan. And it's not true. So, if a child is given money for a birthday, if a child is given money to do certain things, certain chores, just having the idea, keeping the idea in the mind that a portion of it, as little as 10% of what that is. So if they get $10, taking $1 and just putting that dollar somewhere, putting it in a piggy bank. If it's $5, saving a portion of that 50 cents, something of it, and putting to the side. It's really about financial habits is what we're really trying to do. It doesn't really matter how much money you have, but it's just having the mentality of whatever it is that I have, I don't need to spend all of it. In fact, a great little nugget that I picked up from one of these conferences I attended an advisor said that in her household, they don't say we can't afford. They say we choose not to spend our money on this, right? We need to give our children the ability, the authority to say that I have a bunch of choices with my money. I am choosing not to spend it on this because I'm using it for something else. I'm spending it or so on and so forth. So again, hopefully that answers the question. Bottom line, there's no minimum threshold to have, as long as there's a mentality that you want to start putting money in these different pockets.
Yeah, and I really like that idea of reframing the way things are said, or reframing the way that we think about money. Like, we have choices when it comes to spending our money. Sometimes, we're kind of locked in, or, we have to pay rent, or we have to get food on the table, but involving children into that conversation and really empowering them. I really like that. There's another question that came in that was kind of related. And the question is, what do you recommend for families with extreme financial struggle? So maybe recovering from foreclosure or trying to pay off student loan debt. Do you recommend that families include their children in the process of recovery to kind of teach them about what happened and what the process is moving forward? Or is that something to kind of remove them from?
No, so I'll tell you what, one of the biggest issues that I've seen in my 20 plus years in this advisory business is a lack of communication from parent to child. And it doesn't matter how old that parent could be, a 30-year-old parent with a 5-year-old child, or it could be a 70-year-old parent with a 50-year-old child. It's almost this this fear or discomfort of talking about finances in a lot of households. And I think part of that is because those parents never really got that guidance, and so they're really not really sure what to pass on to their child. But you know, just as you want to share with your child, hey, you know what, I've invested this money, I've put this money away, and we're saving it, and here are the benefits of doing all these great things. We also want to be able to share with the child, hey, this is what debt is. These are the steps that we took, and these are the things that we did that you should not do. Because if you do, this is what the outcome can be. So I think transparency is helpful. Again, when you're looking at elementary school kids, they don't really understand the concept of bankruptcy, and they don't understand some of the concepts of too much debt. But what we can do at that early age is to start forming these habits of, okay, once you have things, kind of start sorting them out into these different buckets, these 4 different buckets, right? And hopefully, if we start doing that early and we start explaining to them, hey, guess what? Remember we told you what the difference between a credit card is and a debit card? And with a credit card, and you're using someone else's money and they charge you a lot of money, that may not be the best way to go. And so if we start those conversations early, and if we put that into our children's psyche or mindset from that early age, hopefully they won't get to that point where they're in college and they're being bombarded by credit card companies. It's like, hey, how you give me a card with $10,000 line of credit? I don't even have a job. So that's really what we're trying to do. I mean, for older kids could definitely understand. Middle school, high school, there's definitely, you can have that engagement, that conversation, and definitely share with them both the good and the bad of things that can happen with your finances, for sure.
Nice. So what about retirement? When is too early to start talking to kids about retirement? I mean, I know that you touch a lot on investing with the investment bear, or the investor bear in your book, but how and when should we start teaching children about retirement?
Okay, how much time do we have, Erica? Because we could literally be on this. I could be on this soapbox talking
All
about
day. No,
retirement
I'm
planning
just
for a
kidding.
long time. By the way, before I get shout out to my brother Bert, how do they stand, brother? Hopefully they stand strong. So here's what it is. We are now in a world wherein folks aren't getting pensions, right? companies aren't giving pensions out like they did. In 1950, right, you retired at 65 and you died at 70. That was it. You retired, you got your pension, you died off in a couple years. Today, average retirement age is 65. Life expectancy is 85. That's today, right? So if you are a person who is looking at retirement and that window is 3 to 5 years from now, you're probably not getting a pension, and you're probably living 4 times longer than your parents or your grandparents did in this whole retirement phase, right? So if you're a younger person and you're seeing what's going on and you're seeing that road ahead, you have the opportunity to start sowing those seeds. I would often tell my clients, you can't eat tomorrow what you didn't plant yesterday, right? You can't all of a sudden be 65, like, hey, I need money for retirement. So you didn't do anything. You haven't been investing, you haven't been saving, you haven't been utilizing the tools that are available that now in our society, it's on our shoulders to have to deal with, as opposed to in years past when a corporation paid a pension until you died. So if you're a young person out there, it's imperative that you start the process early, that you start utilizing tools like IRAs. If a company gives a 401k with a match, that's free money, that's instant return on your money. Put money into a 401k. Utilize Roth IRAs, utilize those tools that allow you to grow your money on a tax deferred basis. Anytime the government gives you an opportunity to grow something without getting any taxes on it, use it. All right. So that's really that's my condensed version of retirement planning. It's on us. We have to do the savings. We have to now. The 3 things that you got to be able to do, which is why it's important to have a financial advisor, a CFP, or someone to be able to bounce these ideas off of, is you have to know how much to put away, right? You have to know how to invest that money, stocks, bonds, cash, asset allocation. And then if you're fortunate enough to have some money, you now have to turn that money into a lifetime worth of income. Right. So those are the three main challenges that we all have as folks that are on this financial life journey, is knowing how much to put away, knowing how to invest it, and then hopefully turning it into an income down the road. And again, if you are working with an advisor or certified financial planner, awesome. If you're not, it doesn't hurt to look for someone and get some guidance that way.
Great. So a couple of final questions that have come through, and others feel free to put questions in the chat. We have a little bit of time left. But these questions were more so related to savings. So first part of the question, how much would you suggest leaving in a savings account, especially thinking about the examples that you gave about the potential 1% interest that could be earned? And then, are savings bonds a good investment for kids?
Yeah. EE bonds, my kids actually still have a couple of them hanging around. They don't make the paper ones anymore. They're now digital, which is cool. I remember one of the students at the USF program was like, Mac, you know what? You're young enough to be cool, but old enough to be credible. So I've seen some interesting things in my experience of time. But EE bonds are really neat little tools. They don't provide a lot of interest anymore because they're tied to treasury rates, but they are neat tools for long-term savings that are relatively risk-free. Now, when it comes to how much money to have in cash, there's the typical emergency fund, which is anywhere between 3 to 6 months of your of income that you have saved away, squirreled away somewhere. So that's the standard reply that you will get from most financial advisors, from most financial planners. I like to look at money from a sort of a bucket approach. So you have short-term bucket, which is for short-term goals, and then you have midterm, and then you have long-term. And so your short-term bucket are things like cash, CDs, money market, and they are to cover things like it'll happen between 1 to 3 years. So emergency fund, a big expense, to buy a home, buy an automobile, vacation, those types of things should be sitting in cash. One of the things that's frustrating to me personally is when folks have short-term goal tools, right? in long-term goal types of function aspirations. Case in point, folks will have a 401k plan, which is a tax-deferred vehicle loan IRA, and it has cash in it. And I'm saying, but that's a long-term goal. Retirement is a long-term goal. Why are you utilizing something that's earning very, very little, in something that's good, that's meant for 20, 30 years down the road, or even 10 years down the road? So that's really where cash fits in right now. We are in an interest rate environment where things are very, very low. And sadly, you can look at some sort of internet-based banks, which can give you a little bit more rate of return as opposed to brick and mortar banks. But yeah, cash in my mind should be something that's for goals that are 1 to 3 years.
Great. And I think our final question that came through is, and I know you talked about, everyone wants your book to be turned into an app, and I am in favor of that too. I'm raising my hand about that. But question was, what strategies or like budgeting apps, tools would you suggest for teaching children about budgeting?
So there are quite a few. There are 2 resources that I can suggest for parents who are looking for really cool tools. One is Junior Achievement. Junior Achievement is a great organization. They have tools from elementary school all the way up to college. The second is an organization called Jumpstart. And Jumpstart is a very neat organization, and they have like a repository where you can go into their website, and the 4 Money Bears book is on their site as a resource. So those are 2 places that I typically will lead parents to when they're looking for different tools, different resources. Budgeting. There's Acorns. There's Betterment. There's a bunch of different apps out there, which are, I think, more geared towards adults or grown folks when it comes to budgeting. But for kids, there really aren't a lot of digital. There's not a lot in that digital space, especially like the gamified type of resources, which is really what we're trying to do here with this app contest, is to build out that space and provide that platform. A lot of folks have heard of ABC Mouse. So you can go to ABC Mouse to teach your young kids about certain things, reading, writing, and math and all that stuff. So we've been talking with folks at various organizations about utilizing the 4 Money Bears platform once the app gets built up in some of these other educational resources. So Junior Achievement and Jumpstart are 2 places I would refer folks to.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we've covered all our questions. Mac, is there anything else you want to share or cover before we wrap up?
Again, just want to thank everyone that's on the webinar today. We know that the financial planning life journey is a long one, but the earlier we can start having these discussions with our kids, they will be much better off along their financial life journey, because they have the financial literacy now. They have more of it, and then once you combine into that the financial capability, which are the tools that are out there, which technology is starting to bring to us, that will develop into more financial wellness for everyone in society. And interestingly enough, we know what's going on in society now with a lot of this unrest, but financial literacy is one of the great democratizers of our society. People care about what you sound like. People care about what you look like. People care about where you're from. Money doesn't care about any of that stuff, right? And so we need to be able to have a better understanding and control of our financial decision, our financial life, because it's a long journey, and the journey continues.
Awesome. Well, again, I want to echo a lot of the sentiments I've seen come through the chat, that this was so great, so informative. Thank you so much, Mac, for just sharing your knowledge, also creating those 2 books. I've seen a lot of people say they've even already purchased or are planning to purchase the book. So I'm sure that 4 Money Bears will be in a lot of homes soon. So thank you for that.
Wonderful.
As a reminder for all the attendees, we are recording this webinar and we will be sending out the link to the recording after the webinar. And just another plug for another UMD Alumni Association event that's happening over the next couple of months. I encourage you to check out our UMD Democracy 2020 virtual event series, which is a series to aim to provide resources and information on things to know before the election this November. So I will share the link to that in the follow-up email along with the link to this recording. But again, thank you, Mac. Really appreciate having you on today. Thank you all for attending, and go Terps.
Go Terps.